Hello and welcome to Restoring Our American Republic. I'm Chuck Benoit with The Nature of Things, where we are realigning God, government, and natural law so that we might restore our American Republic. The Bible says in the last days that people will be under strong delusion. Of course, the problem with delusion is if you are deluded, well, you don't know you're deluded. It begins by believing a lie and believing it because you want the lie to be true. From that point on, there's nothing you can count on that will lead you to the truth. We can all look at New York City and the new mayor, Mamdani, and we can ask ourselves, how could someone espousing communism in today's society see that as good? But the people of New York City want the lies to be true. Communism has failed everywhere it's been tried. Even here in America, it had failed in a community of God-fearing people. Now, why would that be? Well, I'll tell you. It's a violation of natural law to expect someone to work harder than the next guy in order to help feed that same guy. Another lie that has been swallowed almost whole by our legislators is the idea that governing for special interests is somehow governing for the people. We've been talking about a platform to offer our next governor. We can't forget that a major platform, major plank in that platform has to be governing for the best interests of Floridians, which would include lower electricity prices, lower insurance costs, and lower property taxes. As been so eloquently noted by Mike Levine, there's very little incentive in lowering property costs because everyone except the buyer benefits from that higher price tag. But our next governor must be told that we Floridians want to be the beneficiary of legislation debated and passed in his or her term of office. There has been several people throwing their hat in the ring. And my question is any of them campaigning on the platform of benefiting we, the people? So with that said, good morning, Mike Levine.
Good morning, Chuck. Let me pop in on your monologue, okay?
Sure,
Are you
go ahead.
ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so it's very interesting, Chuck. I loved listening to your monologue because I was with James Fishback a week or so ago at the Pasco County Republican Liberty Caucus meeting, and I'm telling you, man, James Fishback, he throws down exactly what you're talking about. He is, I mean, if you listen to what he has to say, he is totally aligned with you and me, Chuck. But
Wow.
it's also
Wow.
a mystery as to why James Fishback bought a residential property in Madison, Florida, and a commercial property, an office building in Madison, Florida, where David Ramba owns 50 acres and Bill Helmick lives in David Ramba's house in Madison County, Florida, while he has homesteaded property in Leon County, but his voter registration and driver's license is Madison County. And then the Republican Liberty Caucus of Florida's own legislative consultant, John Hallman, has bought property and relocated to Madison, Florida. So something really big is going on there, Chuck. But if you want to listen to a candidate who speaks our language, although as I alluded to off camera with you, there's a whole lot to be discovered behind James Fishback's veil, Chuck.
Yes, no, for those who may not know, James Fishback has his hat in the ring for our governorship here in Florida. And that's why we're talking about him, along with a few others. Um, yeah, well, you never know with this delusion thing where that might take you.
It's not delusion, Chuck. These guys are not delusional. They know exactly what they're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
That is not a delusion. Because they are the um what am I looking for? They're the pace setter. They know exactly. Let me tell you something. Them, and I don't know what the connection is between Ramba, Power, Helmick, and DeSantis. That'll be interesting to see as we get closer to the Republican primary. But let me tell you something, there's some heavy duty power moves going on in the state of Florida, Chuck.
Well, I'm sure. I'm sure. There's a big deal for the 26 election, that's for sure. Then a few
28
other.
election is really what we're talking about. In this conversation, we're talking about 28.
Oh, okay. All right.
26 will be influential, but 28 is what I'm talking about, not 26.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, 26 is definitely going to happen before 28. The way my calendar
It's
works.
true. And as I said, that'll have a big impact on what happens in 28.
Yeah.
But as you opened, Chuck, and I'm totally on board with you, of course, because we've talked about it many times, the gubernatorial election in Florida is the most pressing political issue in front of us today.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. But there has been other elections. The Republican Liberty Caucus of Florida just elected for the second time this year a new chairman. I know you were running for that and you didn't win. So I was just wondering, what your thoughts
I'm
are.
getting quite a long track record of that, Chuck, running for stuff and not winning.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm
I should.
delusional.
Well,
Could be.
I know you are cutting edge, and in order to get very close to you, you have to feel like you're willing to be cutting edge as well. And maybe there really isn't that many people who have that demeanor. Um,
Well, David and Goliath is an interesting story, right? Because David appeared to be an underdog and was willing to take on the giant. And
yeah,
of course, I don't profess to be David, but I do profess to punch above my weight class, let's just say.
yeah, right, for sure. So uh, I'm sure you have a response, maybe even a very significant response to this election, because I mean the Republican Liberty Caucus of Florida, I think is an extremely important organization, but it does seem to have it seems to be faltering right now. Um, two chairmen in a matter of just a couple of months. And the original chairman, Bob White, he 10 years, was he chairman for 10 years or
10
more?
years, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
so the loss of someone as foundational as Bob White, and then an immediate transfer twice in months of leadership, it does seem a little uncomfortable. So I guess, I'm sure you're disappointed that the executive board didn't embrace your vision. Why don't we just start with that? What your vision
Well, let
was?
me just get, Chuck, let me just address that real quick, okay?
Yeah,
Because David Wallace, the gentleman who was elected chairman at the convention in August, is a good man.
yeah,
But somehow he was persuaded to go do photo ops with Evan Power and Bill Helmick and the conservative base around Florida, not just RLC members, but people who were outside of the organization and have a very high respect for the Republican Liberty Caucus of Florida, were outraged that David Wallace allowed that to happen. And of course, I blame Karen Morton, the vice chair, because she's the one who's always covered for the Republican Party of Florida at the Republican Liberty Caucus. So I think David Wallace naively fell into that trap. That's what I believe. So ultimately, the outrage around the state of Florida, including Bob White, by the way, Bob White was the most angry of everyone on the executive board when Wallace did that. Okay. So the base, the Republican Liberty Caucus base, does not want us doing kumbaya with the Republican Party of Florida without unconditionally, let's just say. Because again, keep in mind, I'm very willing to work with the Republican Liberty Caucus with the Republican Party of Florida, but they're going to understand what we want, and it's going to be a mutually beneficial partnership,
if
not
at all.
unblinded subordination
Yeah.
to the Republican Party of Florida choosing Republican candidates in primary elections, Chuck. So, yeah, that's a big difference. But the fact is, my point is that the Republican Liberty Caucus members, when you go to your local chapter membership meeting, like we will Thursday night in Lake County, everybody in the room is livid about the Republican Party of Florida expelling chairmen and state committeemen and state committeewomen from their chapters. I mean, from their RECs, right? Our
Right.
whole group is livid about it. But the 14-member executive board is not livid about it because they voted to subordinate to the Republican Party of Florida Sunday night. That's what they did. That's the reason I didn't get elected, because I was too confrontational, in my opinion. Of course, they were not bold enough to tell me that to my face, but that's what's actually happening there. Okay. So that's the reason that I didn't get elected. Okay. That's that. And we can move on to the next subject, unless you
Yeah.
have something else.
No, obviously I'm very aware of your vision, and read it. We've talked about it on the show, and it was quite bold. It was very broad, and would have, I think, uh, been difficult in the sense that it would take time and effort, and maybe even personal money, in order to make that happen. Do you feel that the board just wasn't prepared to um, do anything different than they've ever done before or something?
Chuck, I'm telling you, from just a perception standpoint, I really don't believe my vision had anything to do with it. It's all about the relationship between the Republican Liberty Caucus of Florida and the RPOF. That's what it's
Okay,
all about. Let me
so
tell you something. Tom Vail, just so you know, Chuck, Tom Vail said in his 3-minute speech that he had no vision for the organization. He said that. Okay. And they voted for him anyway. What else do you want to know? Okay.
Uh, yeah, I guess I was going to save it to the end and mention that Tom Vail did win, and he has said that he's going to come
It's
on
okay. No, I like
our
Tom
program.
Vail.
Yeah,
Tom's a
yeah,
friend. We've been doing business together for a long
sure,
time. I'm good with Tom Vail. I don't have a problem with Tom Vail,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. This
But my
this is
problem, just like David Wallace, is leadership. Where are you going to take this organization? And neither one of those guys really had a solid plan for where they're going to take the organization. They're going to, so that's it. So that's my point, Chuck.
Yeah, and I guess I was trying to getting ready to say this is not a personal thing. We're not dealing with personalities. We're dealing with an organization that is extremely important in Florida politics, and in particular, grassroots Republican politics. So,
Right.
so you had a plan, but you feel that the main issue was the fact that you kind of uh, are willing to butt heads with the Republican Party of Florida.
Let's
And
think about this for a second, Chuck. Think about this for 1 second, right? What if Donald Trump wasn't willing to butt heads with Xi Jinping? Where would we be? We'd be speaking
I,
Chinese,
yeah, right.
right? Yeah. So I rest my case. Some people just don't have the stomach for this. I get it.
Yeah,
And let me tell you something. There's people on the executive board of the RLC who are running for office right now. There are people that are state committee men and state committee women on the executive board. So this is just kumbaya, right? And I'm good. Look, I want to embrace the Republican Party of Florida, but I also want the Republican Party of Florida to stay out of Republican primaries. I don't think that's a big ask. It's in their documents that we do not get involved in primaries, but they do.
yeah.
So I just want a little truth here. A little integrity would be good, right? But everybody is not as passionate about it as I am, Chuck.
Yeah, and you obviously have a lot of passion. Um, So, so
Okie
I
doke.
guess what I think I heard you say at some point is that the executive board of the Republican Liberty Caucus of Florida really isn't willing to walk out the vision of their local members. Um,
Yeah, we just talked about it. All
yeah,
you got to do, all you got, look, just a Thursday night, we're going to have a meeting in Claremont. Just ask the membership, do a little straw poll. How many of you guys think that we should just roll over and subordinate fully to the Republican Party of Florida? Just do a straw poll. You're going to get a zero. You're going to get a consensus that subordinating blindly to the Republican Party of Florida is not what the members want. I was in Pasco County last week, and their membership doesn't want to do it either. So you got, there were 14 members of the executive board there. 13 of them voted. One member didn't vote. And 4 voted for me, the bold people who always support me at the executive board at the RLC, voted for me, and 9 voted for Tom. Because Tom, and keep in mind that when we had the little press conference outside the Republican Party of Florida quarterly meeting, Tom Vail chose not to participate, even though he's very aligned with Kathy Chamberlain and Trent Wayman and Jackie Heisey and all of them. He go to the Signal channel. Tom's all into the Signal channel. But he strategically, based on the advice of the executive board of the RLC, did not participate in that. I did participate. And of course, now I'm banned from RPOF quarterly meetings. And that's fine with me, Chuck.
yeah, fine with you. I'm a little disappointed. Let's move
I'm
on to another
disappointed
topic.
too. Let me tell you something, Chuck. Let me just make this point.
Sure.
I like talking to Evan Power. I like talking to Bill Helmick because we will get things done. Okay? They are Republicans. We need the Republican Party of Florida, and they need us. But if we don't honestly lay our cards on the table, we will get no progress. And I'll tell you, let me just say to you, Chuck, it is very possible that in 2026, MAGA Republicans don't show up at the polls. That's real. Okay? And I'll tell you right now, I'm concerned about it. I'll just leave it at that, Chuck.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's change the topic a little bit. Let's talk about the idea of grassroots organizations having term limits. We just mentioned a little earlier that Bob Wyatt held on to his chairmanship for 10 years, and he steps down, and all of a sudden there's all kinds of confusion might be just a simple word to use there. What are your thoughts on that? The idea of having a succession plan in order to, sustain the organizations themselves over time.
Yeah, just so you know, Chuck, the FRA is going through the same thing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Peter Caracas and Lou Marin have been running the FRA for a long time. And the bylaws of that organization require elections of officers. And these guys at the FRA have not filled all of the officer billets. So basically, they have had no board of directors, which means that the president, Peter Caracas, and I forget Lou's exact title, but I guess let's call him a vice president, the guy that actually does the operations around the state, they've been running this thing the way they want because there's no board of directors. They answer to no one, and they've been in power for a long time. So now there is a challenger, Bob Valenta, who we've had on the show, to the presidency of the Florida Republican Assembly, and the Florida Republican Assembly is in turmoil also. Okay, so my point would be, and just so you know, Chuck, I know that we opened this segment with the word term limits, but I don't think term limits are good enough. I think there needs to be a succession plan, which means that the chairman of this organization, or the president, however you want to, whatever the bylaws call for, they serve for whatever the term is. Let's just use 2 years, for example. And after 2 years, the vice president steps up and becomes the president. That's the way that's my recommendation for grassroots organizations. Now you'll build a bench of leadership, and your power structure, your leadership structure inside your organization will be strong indefinitely. And we don't create kings and celebrities, Chuck, because the problem in politics is that everybody wants to be a celebrity, Chuck.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've been involved in a few organizations myself, and that is typically how it works. You have kind of a succession going through the chairs. I know what that means is if you take the lowliest position of treasurer, which nobody wants, you better be prepared at some point to be the president. And so
Yeah.
the idea is you need not just want to be one of the guys, you need to want to be the guy at some point, and understanding how the organization operates over the course of 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 4, 6, 8 years, using 2 years.
I'll tell you a funny story. I was involved. We lobbied, the realtor organization lobbies Washington, D.C. every year. And my friend Hope Andrews was responsible for making sure that Newt Gingrich made it to all of his speaking engagements, because he had several speaking engagements with the National Association of Realtors during our visit. And Newt Gingrich told Hope Andrews that it was easier to become the president of the United States than it is to be the president of the National Association of Realtors. They bench their presidents 6 years in a row, 6 presidents deep, Chuck. That's how long you're going to be the president 6 years from now. Very similar, by the way, to the way that leadership is chosen in the Florida legislature. And we can have that conversation at some point if you'd like.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that. Each freshman group picks their leadership.
That's correct.
That far in advance.
And then, of course, because of Bob White's amazing wisdom and experience, he's actually told me personally, face to face, that when the freshman class gets around to selecting their speaker designate, the current Speaker of the House typically whips those votes and tells the freshman class who they will vote for as their speaker designate, which is a real problem, Chuck.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Back to local organizations. It does take quite a little amount of personnel to successfully lead an organization. And you would think that if someone puts that kind of time in, they would like to be able to move through the leadership channels themselves. So it seems to me like that kind of a succession thing could be valuable in bringing high quality people to the leadership board.
And I'll flip that comment over and say, without a succession plan, it's very hard to bring quality people to the table, because quality people, don't want to sow into it and have no possibility of entering into higher leadership down the road, Chuck. Most people who are capable of running an organization like the Republican Liberty Caucus of Florida or the Florida Republican Assembly or any other grassroots organization like that, they would like to gain some influence. That's why they're at the table. And if they see that the same chairman or president is chairman, over time, you never get the best people involved in your upper leadership team, Chuck.
Yeah. Well, hopefully people are listening to what we have to say, and some of these ideas might get implemented at some point.
I have one more comment, Chuck.
Sure, go ahead.
And this is why we have so many. This is why the Republican grassroots organizations are so fragmented, because every time somebody wants to be the leader, they just start a new organization. That wouldn't happen if these organizations had succession plans.
Yeah, there are definitely quite a few organizations out there, and everyone feels like their vision or their idea of the future um, could only be implemented by them. And so you're right; they'll start something new. I mean, I
Oh yeah.
often,
Look, they're popping up all over the place.
yeah,
And just so you know, Chuck, with I've shared my vision for grassroots organizations, including the Republican Liberty Caucus and the Florida Republican Assembly, with other organizations. And I got news for you. There's a lot of people that are really interested. So
yeah.
we're going to get this done, Chuck, one way or the other.
Yeah, well, I often wonder, where exactly does, a firebrand like Michael Levine fit? And I'm thinking that possibly, yeah, what you fit is in all of these organizations, giving them some sort of a track record, track to run on, and you are influencing a lot of people and a lot of organizations, and so we shall see how things play out. Um,
It'll be interesting. So, again, I think we've covered it. So, I don't think me embellishing any of that is really productive today.
yeah,
So I'll
yeah,
turn the microphone back over to you.
yeah. Well, I guess maybe in these last few minutes we can just say again, we're not talking about personalities. We're not dealing with that kind of thing. We're dealing with a long-term vision and a goal. And some people have the vision. Some people want the leadership role. But if you don't have a vision, it's going to at some point or another harm the organization. So again, what we're talking about is personality. And I want to remind people again that we invited Tom Vail on the program, and he'll be here next Tuesday. And we would love to hear what he has to say and where he wants to take the Republican Liberty Caucus of Florida, um, and uh, and hear from his own mouth where he's at. And we respect Tom. Both Mike and I respect him greatly. So just trying to make it very, very clear that we're dealing with vision, not personality, as we discuss these things. Well,
Let me just say
we're
one more thing, Chuck,
sure.
real quick. Okay. Yeah. I've got a close friend of mine who has a master's degree in human resources management. The number one characteristic of a successful leader is vision. That's what leadership is.
Yeah,
Leadership sets the vision for the organization. No vision, no success. That's just the way it works, Chuck.
yeah, yeah. So we're down to about 2 minutes. I didn't know. Was wondering if you'd like to just go ahead and make a final couple of minute comment, and we'll close ourselves out.
Well, I guess in closing, I would just say that we are in critical times here, Chuck, and leadership is the most scarce commodity on the planet. So we definitely need strong leaders in these various different positions. It's nice when you can take the momentum that a Republican Liberty Caucus of Florida, the Florida Republican Assembly, Defend Florida, Reclaim Florida, um, American Patriots Executive Committee, all the various organizations, right? Um, it's great you can build on the successes that these organizations have had in the past. But leadership is required as these long tenured leaders step aside or get pushed out by their membership. It's imperative that strong visionary leadership steps up and picks up the baton and runs with it, Chuck.
Sure. Well, thank you, Mike Levine, and thank you all again for tuning in to our twice weekly live stream. Please follow us on Facebook at Restoring Our American Republic. Check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic ROAR. Please like and share the program. And remember, if you are unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. Until next time, God bless you. God bless President Donald J. Trump, and God bless America.